Our fourth and final game of this show, is Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
The Third Strike, y'all, is Street Fighter 3.
Yeah, it was nominated by at Freestar on Twitter. Thank you, Freestar. Interesting game. It's got the rapping in it, as I believe you were quoting. It's got the hip hop.
Let's get it going now. Select to choose the first pick. Going. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, it's cool.
I was going to say, if they're on their third strike, you'd think Capcom would have gotten rid of them by now, right?
Yeah, 3 strikes and you're out.
Who's on first?
Okay, so what differentiates... before we get to the Third Strike, we're talking just the Street Fighter 3 part. What did Street Fighter 3 change? What's it different? How is it different than the Street Fighter Alpha series and Street Fighter 2?
May I take a moment to talk on this?
Yes, you may.
I'd kind of say it kind of went back to basics a bit, because you didn't have as many of the extra mechanics as you did with Street Fighter Alpha. You had one super move. You could choose which one you want from 3, but you only had one available time.
And they weren't that complicated inputs for those.
I would say it kind of depended on the character, but...
I'd say they were pretty easy. I mean,
a lot of them, it's usually just 2 quarter circles or in one direction or the other, and then a button.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like the, like down forward, half circle backward, half forward, whatever of SNK's games at the time.
It also had EX moves, like special powered up versions of your special moves that came from Darkstalkers and other similar games. But the biggest thing it added was the addition of the parrying, where you hit forward right before an attack hits you, and you block it with no damage. You can have a very limited time to counterattack.
It was, simple concept, but really hard to get down pat because, since you have to tap forward, you're not guarding here. You get punched in the face if you time it wrong. Although I believe Third Strike, compared to the previous 2 iterations of Street Fighter 3, it was a little bit more generous with the parry timing.
Is the parry thing, is that basically them kind of sanctioning the whole frame counting aspect of tournament level fighting games, or because it seems like that's how it worked? You had to do it at exactly the right time.
You pretty much have to know about frames, or else it's just going to be a matter of luck.
But was it supposed to be a matter of luck, or was it supposed to be was it encouraging frame counting? I mean,
at its core, it's a risk reward mechanic, right? You're supposed to. If you try to parry, you can't block, so you take a big risk.
Yeah, it's true.
So, okay, at a professional level of Street Fighter 3, do they... Because, if they parry, do they get it right every single time? I can't imagine they do. When it comes down to single-frame inputs, you can't be perfect all the time. It's still a risk, no matter how good you are.
Well, the thing of it is, parrying isn't necessarily mandatory to master, or even learn to play Street Fighter 3 and even do decent at it. But I do imagine that, for better or worse, it is one of those things that, separates, high-level tournament players like Daigo Umehara or Justin Wong or who have you, from, intermediate-level players like me. Because I don't parry very often when I play this. I have enough trouble timing with links and combos and all that, and I think I'm gonna... But parrying is, I think, really useful to not totally die when getting up.
Well, let's back up a little bit, because you were saying, before we started recording, you were saying that you feel like Street Fighter 3 was kind of a middle ground between Street Fighter 2 and the Alpha series, which was more complicated?
Oh, I think that was Bob who was actually talking about that.
Let's pretend I was talking to Bob the whole time. Bob, you were saying... Yeah, go ahead.
What was your question?
You were saying that you felt like Street Fighter 3 as a series as a game was kind of the middle ground between Street Fighter 2 and the Street Fighter Alpha series.
Right. Street Fighter Alpha kind of added a lot of weird mechanics, like custom combos, multiple ISMs. Not all bad features, but kind of things that kind of complicate things a lot. 3 is more kind of going back to basics for a little bit. But
I find it weird, though, because I feel like, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like Street Fighter 3 is the one that continues to be, is kind of beloved by the the diehard fighting game community. But maybe I'm wrong about it. Maybe they prefer alpha because it's more complicated.
No, I'd say they definitely prefer 3.
If my theorem is that 3 just plays faster. I think it's because it hits that balance between... it has just enough that's simple to easy to understand and to make it flow really quickly. The parrying is a pretty tricky mechanic, and when to hit the EX moves and whatnot. There are a lot of factors to consider. More than 2, less than alpha. It's arguably the best of those worlds, put into a very gorgeous game.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, that's the very rare Capcom player system, CPS 3, which only existed for this and like 2 other games before it was considered not cost effective in the arcade. It had some weird like copy protection with a disc or whatever.
It's gorgeous. Like that's the main thing I like about it, is that it's just so beautiful. Like the sprite art is amazing. It really is a step above the Alpha series.
Yeah, and to elaborate more on why I think it's most preferred among big name fighting game players, it's definitely the most offensive-minded of all the games, due in part to the parry system. Because in Alpha, you'd probably be encouraged more to like back off and like maybe defend a lot of people's attacks, which is known as turtling when you do that a lot. But everyone moves faster in 3, and they're encouraged to be more in everyone's face. Matches generally tend to go faster because that's just the way the game's constructed. That you're encouraged to use blitzfire tactics and keep poking, and it just moves really ridiculously quickly. Not as quick as Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but it's reasonably insane enough.
I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is just like an unbalanced...
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is just lazy, I'm sorry.
If you're not... Oh, that's a hot take!
The sprites are all over the place. They're just taken from other games. Like, I love it because it's so weird and crazy, but it is a mess.
Like, I've seen Literal Mugen games more love and effort than Marvel 2.
It's a very interesting game that I'd love to talk about sometime, but that's not what's on trial here right now.
So, I mean, let me say, for me, like, I'm not a big fighting game aficionado. I mostly like them just because I like sprite art, and fighting games are like a great demonstration of the power and ability.
So many
sprite art.
Great, cool characters and backgrounds.
Right.
Excellent backgrounds.
So, but my main problem with Street Fighter 3, and I should point out we're talking about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which I believe is, it adds Chun-Li for the first time to Street Fighter 3 roster, and is there another character it adds?
Oh, it adds 4 more, but this is a point we actually didn't mention. A reason why Street Fighter 3 was kind of passed over at first was that...
A lot of original characters.
Except for Ryu and Ken in the first incarnation, absolutely no one was from 2 or Alpha. It was all these new faces, like this big burly dude, Alex, this gentleman boxer, Dudley, cute girl ninja, Ibuki, and all these other cool characters who have come more into their own, but back then it's like, who the hell are these guys? Where's my Blanca?
It's a mixed bag, because it's got, and this is what I was going to say, is it's got half the characters are great and belong, and feel like they belong in Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the characters are terrible. Alex...
Like 12.
Terrible. 12, terrible.
Alex is terrible? Wait, did you say Alex is terrible, dude?
Yes.
Holy no, objection. He was just added to Street Fighter 5 by popular demand. Everyone really missed him in 4.
Well, they're idiots. I don't care what I'm talking about.
Wow, we are losing
character. There's nothing interesting about
hang on.
Look, 12.
Here's the thing.
12 is weird, I'll say. I'll just...
stupid, malleable, like Venom character or something. But here's the thing, like, all right, about Alex is that the thing about Street Fighter characters is they're basically just punch-out characters with slightly less silly names. But that's what they are. Is they're like caricatures from whatever place they're supposed to be from. That's what's fun about them. There's nothing interesting or unique about Alex. He's just a guy.
I kind of feel like visually there's like something about Third Strike I don't like as much.
Everybody has huge feet. character as a detriment.
Like the interface, like originally Street Fighter 3 felt more like a continuation of Street Fighter 2 in every way. Like you had like a brand new cast except for Ryu and Ken, just like Street Fighter 1 had to Street Fighter 2, right?
Mm.
And it brought up the things like you win a fight, you see your guy, you see the other guy beaten up, but they didn't know it was cool. And then in Third Street, they kind of tossed all that out. And with the characters, they introduced a lot of the returning characters kind of didn't make it feel as new anymore, I guess.
I can see what you're saying. Like, they should have just stuck to their guns. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't like the way that they, like, changed Chun-Li's costume. I feel like it looks kind of weird. But I do like some of the new characters. I like the judo girl. I like...
Makoto's awesome, yes. Ibuki's awesome.
I like... the Dudley is a cool guy.
Everyone loves Dudley, yes.
Dudley's, see what I mean? Dudley's a punch-out character.
he throws roses at people to become stronger.
Ibuki's a punch-out character kind of thing. They're caricatures. Whereas with, like, other... like Alex and some other guy, like it's just like, who cares?
I can't believe you hate Alex. That's just...
Why would you like Alex?
Because he's a very unique fighter. He's...
You're talking about mechanics of like...
Yes.
Play style.
Yeah,
No, I'm
he
talking
plays
about, like,
great.
Just character design in terms of like the artwork and the idea behind him, which is... how could you differentiate Alex from anybody else? Like any other
stupid... I'd say he does alright for basically being like a similar kind of Trobus Guile.
Basically, he's just like the American guy. And in the grand tradition of American guys in Japanese fighting games, he looks like no American who ever lived.
He was meant to look a little bit like Hulk Hogan. Let's go with that.
Stupid. I don't specifically dislike Street Fighter 3 as a game. I just feel like the characters are not as imaginative and memorable as they could be.
I'll concede that they are a lot weirder and less accessible than 2 and Alpha's cast.
The Darkstalker series, which basically no one played when it was current.
It's too bad.
I played those games, but I bet you they recognize the characters because
exactly.
Oh, yes.
Look from other crossovers. They love Morgan Felicia.
And their sprites that they'll forever use.
But I mean,
my favorite's Lord Raptor personally, but
even like Dimitri and some other characters, and whatever the mummy guy was, like
and Icarus.
Yeah, those are cool, interesting characters. Like, I mean, well, Darkstalkers itself basically created Skullgirls. Like it
yes, exactly.
Skullgirls into existence. I mean, I feel like as a fighting game, like it's accomplishment, its polish as a game in its genre puts it up there in the like UN Squadron, Wonder Boy, Monsterland, Snatcher area. But maybe that's too high. I don't know.
No, I'd say it's warranting around this area. I don't. Bob?
You're going to get dead silence, I think.
I would agree with that. I would accept that.
I would put it below UN Squadron just because I feel like UN Squadron has some kind of uniqueness to it for its genre.
That sounds fair for my
Fighter 3 is really more like a let's polish the gem type thing.
Yeah. No.
Street Fighter 3. If this was like a best of fighting games ever list, Street Fighter 3 would be really, really high.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree, but it's not. It's a best overall game. Like it's.
And yet we've talked about it more negatively.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to say about the character.
Okay.
Because
I mean, like it's if you're not a fighting game player, so you're looking at people, everyone who plays games, everyone everywhere, they're not going to put Street Fighter 3 all the way up on the list unless they're lying, because all of the nuances, all of the gameplay, all of that is actually really hard to access unless you're really heavily into it. So it's
that's true.
We do have to kind of accept that this is a generalist list. It is a overall for like a broad audience kind of thing. It's not about like the most hardcore of hardcore games, despite our name and all that. But you know what I mean? Like it's not.
If we were just saying like, oh, this is the best game because it's the most technically difficult and most technically impressive in terms of like design, like
but I do
balance
think
and execution.
Factor that in.
You'd have like all these weird games at the top that no one cared about because it would just be like, but this one's perfect.
See, I am factoring it in. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm sticking it below the top 10, but basically but above almost everything else. I'm putting it below UN Squadron just because I feel like UN Squadron has a kind of heart to it that I feel like Street Fighter 3 never really. I feel like Street Fighter 3 was somebody saying like, let's make the ultimate fighting game, and which is impressive.
Let's make the ultimate fighting game and then remove our cast.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to give them credit for at least saying like, let's not rest on our laurels here.
Even if the characters in Street Fighter 3 are weird and a lot harder to get into, I do have to respect that it was rather ballsy of them to go with something completely different.
They tried, which I believe is one of the little spheres in our like bubble grid of critical points to make. I'm not criticizing the game as a whole, but I'm just saying like I do feel like for casual players, if you like fighting games just because you like cool artwork and interesting characters and funny stuff, it doesn't really deliver on that front. But it is really good at what it delivers on its promise, and it delivers really well. And people are going to be playing this game for a very long time.
Yeah, Street Fighter 3 was almost kind of a swan song of the prominence of fighters in the arcade and for 2D fighters in general, like along with it and Garou Mark of the Wolves on Neo Geo.
Yeah, I mean that to me has a little bit more heart, but
I think so too. But that's okay.
Anybody disagree with this? Below UN Squadron, above Snatcher.
I think that's perfect, honestly.
All right, we're
I'll
done.
take it.